drafting. They need to at the offensive line position. I mean, if you look at what they've taken in offensive line, 4th and 5th round picks over the last several years, it's not good.
No.
Willie Beavers, Tyrus Thompson. I mean, all these guys that people don't know because they never even played.
And the Willie Beavers pick. And listen, I give Spielman credit. He's built an excellent roster.
Yeah.
But from Matt Khalil to Pat Elflein, he picked about 8 guys who can't play, and Willie Beavers is the most obvious can't play guy.
Well, I mean, Tyus Thompson never even got, onto the roster, and he was a 4th or 5th round pick, and they're not even. It's just amazing that you would think that highly of a guy in March and April before you draft him, and then by the time September hits, you realize he just can't play. He's not even worth bringing back on the practice squad. So it's. For all the good that the Vikings have done in the draft, high round, especially on the defensive side, they need to get better at drafting offensive linemen.
We are live at Mississippi Pub in Inver Grove Heights. GPS it to get out here. Great river views, great views of the marina, great food. We like the fried pickles. If you come during one of our shows, $4 Beaver Island drafts. We can highly recommend those as well. And we try to do live questions. We try to do giveaways. We brought some stuff to give away, and it got attacked. It's all gone. But we do have business cards if anybody knows a business might want to sponsor us, and we have bumper stickers, which also can be used as any other kind of sticker if you want to put them on your show. And we're going to take another live question.
You know what? It's not a question, but to your deal with the defense, I would love to see more focus on those guys because they are incredible.
Yep.
And last night it was very clear that they are a huge piece of this, and you don't even hear their names that much. And I would love to see that.
I think part of the reason is you have a team that went to the NFC Championship, so everybody's looking for where can they get better. And the defense, I don't know that they can get a lot better. I mean, they're so in tune with what Mike Zimmer wants to do. It is kind of incredible. And
but I would like them to get the kudos.
You're right. I mean, I do tend to focus on...
Why are you so negative, Tim?
Exactly.
Good
I do
Lord.
tend to focus on
man.
the weak spots.
I got to find a more positive co-host. I'll start looking this week. Sometimes you got to cut people. It's just the way this
business cards are up there. You can contact Jim if you're the positive guy.
Absolutely. That's the Beaver Island talking right there. We like it.
What I found really interesting, though, all throughout the off season, the mini camps that I went to, all the training camp practices I've been at, I tend to look at it and go, man, this offense is kind of struggling. Well, a lot of it has to do with the defense they're
playing against a great
against.
defense.
Yeah. And so that's what was so, I think, such a pleasant surprise. Denver's got a darn good defense too, but the Vikings ate them up on a couple of those drives. And so I think, I think part of it is that the defense is so good. I think also one thing I was really impressed with Saturday night was John DeFilippo. And I thought he did a wonderful job of accentuating the strengths, getting Cousins, Simeon, Slaughter out of the pocket. You inside the 5-minute mark in the fourth quarter, you think they're going to run the ball, and kick a field goal and take a 10-point lead. They run the ball, and then they bootleg Slaughter out, which fooled everyone. So he's got a lot of good misdirection. I got a lot of those RPO, the run-pass options that people talked about in Philadelphia. So I'm really curious to see where this thing goes with the offense because he seems to be in tune with getting the best players involved at the right time and making the right play calls at the right time.
So if you do go out to Vikings training camp, or if during the season you go out to the Vikings facility to go to the museum or anything else, Mississippi Pub is like a 10-minute drive from the facility. It's very easy to get over here. You're not going to be dealing with much traffic. And again, you get river views and everything else. We do recommend that. I also want to thank our friend Tony Hoaglund, your State Farm agent in Champlin. Of course, wherever you live, you can work with Tony because he is an app. His office is very responsive. He's very responsive. You can go to the website. So Hoaglund, if you're looking for a State Farm agent or an insurance agent of any kind. Tony handles my insurance as well as Michael Russo's.
Hey, Minnesota sports fans. This is your local State Farm agent, Tony Hoaglund. I need you all to ask yourselves this question. If you're in an at-fault car accident and you are sued for $700,000, how much of that $700,000 will my current insurance company pay? If you are unsure or can't answer all 700,000, you need to give us a call. State Farm has been number one in car insurance since World War II and number one in homeowners insurance since 1964. For a no-obligation review of your current policies, call us at 763-421-4900 or check out our website at www.champlininsurance.com.
All right, so we were talking to her point, talking about the defense. Talk about how highly ranked it was, how well it played up until the last game last year, how good it looks this year. There is a chance of being better. Sheldon Richardson could make it better.
Yeah, and
maybe Mike Hughes.
Well, Mike Hughes, I thought he played a really good game yesterday. Several times he was, just shadowing the routes of the receivers right there, ready to make a play on the ball. Sheldon Richardson, he's one of those guys that I don't think he's going to pop off the screen until we get to the regular season.
Right.
And then I think once teams start scheming and they say, okay, we got to stop Everson Griffin, we got to stop Danielle Hunter, oh, what about Sheldon Richardson? And so that's where I think he's really going to benefit, is by being a part of this offensive line. And Saturday night, I thought Jalen Holmes, I hadn't seen a ton from him that was really impressive in training camp, and I thought he looked pretty good again. He got several pressures. He had one good spin move, got up in the face. I think at that time it was Chad Kelly, the quarterback for Denver, and that's when Jack Tocho ends up picking off the pass because Kelly's just trying to get rid of the ball in an awkward situation. So, yeah, I like where this defense is at. I think they're absolutely stacked on the defensive line. I think they're absolutely stacked at cornerback, and those are the two most important spots in Mike Zimmer's defense. As long as Anthony Barr and Eric Kendricks are healthy, they're good at linebacker. As long as Harrison Smith is healthy, they should be good at safety. So, they can get better, but one of the ways in doing that is just by being in Zimmer's defense more often, and then Zimmer trusting them on just about anything he wants to call. And we've seen some of that in training camp, in OTAs, in minicamp. They're really moving those guys around and experimenting with different things. 5-man lines where Anthony Barr is a defensive end. They could have 6 defensive backs on the field at one time and kind of use one in sort of a hybrid linebacker mode. So I think it's going to be really interesting to see as things progress in Zimmer's defense, going into year 5 now, I believe, and all of a sudden he's got a lot of these players that have been around and really know it.
If you need tickets for anything, music, NFL games, Viking games, whatever, try SeatGeek. I use it myself, and type in the promo code Vikings, and you'll get $20 off your first order. So let's go back to the quarterbacks. I like talking about quarterbacks. Cousins look great. Diggs look great, and they look great together. Are we seeing any signs that maybe Diggs rises to kind of number one? Listen, Thielen's an excellent player.
Yeah.
He's going to have a good year. But are we seeing any signs that maybe Diggs moves ahead? Because I remember, covering the Vikings in the early 90s. Anthony Carter was the star. And I go to training camp in 91, I think, and I'm watching training camp, and I'm going, okay, I know Anthony Carter's great. I know he's been their best receiver for a long time. But Chris Carter is open on every play. He catches everything. I think he's going to be the best receiver. And he not only became the best receiver that year, he was their best receiver until he got Randy Moss in 98.
Yep.
So are we seeing any signs that Diggs might move ahead of him a little bit?
It's interesting. I've gotten this a couple fantasy-type questions that way, too. And I do think that there is going to be a bit of a shift here, a little bit more to Diggs, and not even just maybe less of Thielen, because I really don't think that's the case, but also Cousins and Treadwell have developed a pretty good rapport in training camp. Now, we didn't see that in the opening series, and Treadwell didn't do anything in the game to make people stand up and go, oh, yeah, I see what everybody's been talking about in training camp. But I really do see Cousins looking Diggs' way more than I think Keenum did last year. Mm-hmm. And part of that might be Diggs has the ability to set people up really well as a route runner, and he can get deep then. And so I think Cousins has a tendency to want to go downfield more than Keenum did, maybe more than Bradford did before that.
And if I can interrupt, that's fans got really excited about Keenum because they were winning games, and he was a big part of that. And he fit in well because of his scrambling ability, and he's a tough guy. Listen, you can love what Keenum did last year, but I know from talking to people in the Vikings organization and from watching the press box view, when you're looking down at the field, you can see who's really open, who's not, which is something you don't always get on TV. There were people open downfield that Keenum didn't throw to or sometimes didn't even see.
Yeah.
That's why this organization is willing to pay Cousins a ridiculous amount of money instead of just keeping Keenum, which would have been the easy thing to do. They see plays open down the field that were not being made.
Yeah, and even when on Saturday night, the big play to Diggs to get to the 3-yard line, it didn't necessarily look like he was open.
No.
But Cousins had this trust that he could put the ball there. And the thing that I love the most about that play, Diggs reminded me a bit of Randy Moss in this area. He waited until the last second to put out his hands and catch the ball. And Moss was so good at that.
Yep.
And when you wait that long, you don't tip off the defensive back that the ball's in the air and, now's the time that you're supposed to turn around and look for it. No, he waited and extended for that. And then he went right back to him on the 1-yard line when they couldn't punch it in through the running game. So I think that Diggs is primed to, as long as he can stay healthy and play at least 15 of the 16 games, which has been a problem for him, I think he is primed to have a 1,000-yard receiving season. And I think Thielen can follow it up with his own 1,000-yard receiving season again this year. And so I just think that because they're looking to get the ball more downfield, that's going to bring Diggs into the game a little bit more. And the other thing is, Thielen with the 1,200-yard season last year, people are going to start to concentrate on him even more. I think they did toward the second half of last season. Mm-hmm. But, Diggs is a guy that I think is really going to have a big season.
I agree. And the best thing about watching both that game last night and looking forward to this season is, even if you loved Keenum, there's always that little bit, okay, he was a backup for a long time. He had some struggles. He had some 4-interception games. With Cousins, you're not going to be going out and looking for Paxton Lynch. You're not. Right. You're not going to be starting Trevor Siemian by choice. He's legitimate. You're not one of these NFL teams that's going, okay, we got 3 guys, and some of them do these things well, and some of them do these things well, and maybe if everything goes right, they'll play well. You have a proven commodity.
Yeah, and
it's a peaceful feeling.
DiFilippo even said as much, echoing that sentiment of if you have a quarterback competition, you don't have one.
Yep, old Bill Parcells line, that's very true.
It is true. I mean, if you've got your guy and you know it, you're in such a more comfortable position, a position of confidence. And, I just, with what Cousins has done in the past, I mentioned the 4,000-yard seasons, the 25 touchdown seasons that he's had. He's got that proven track record.
Yep.
Like, he has earned it. And I think that helps when it comes to, receivers. Anytime a new quarterback comes in, I think there's got to be a proving period. And with Cousins, he's already proven it. So I don't think there's any reason that they a Diggs or a Thielen or a Rudolph would even think, why did we go get this guy? They know why they got him.
Follow the Mississippi Pub at The Miss Pub on Twitter. A good way to find out about all their events, including our shows out here. Follow Tim on Twitter at Viking Update. Follow me on Twitter at Suhan Strib. We'll keep you updated with all the shows across the network and any live shows we're doing. So Diggs, the interesting thing about Diggs is he gets the big contract. I guess he's not complacent because he starts fighting with Xavier Rhodes, who's a bigger, stronger guy than he is.
Yeah, I mean, this was a case last week in training camp that had kind of boiled up through a couple of consecutive practices. So they're in a red zone drill. Diggs beats Rhodes, catches the touchdown, throws the ball into the stands. Everybody in the stands is excited about it. And I think it was the act of him kind of showboating, throwing the ball in the stands that set off Xavier Rhodes. And, quite frankly, Stephon Diggs is he's kind of what people view most NFL receivers. Really confident, kind of cocky, got a little swag about him.
Going to dance every time he catches the ball.
Wants to be the guy, wants to be noticed, all that stuff. And so with Rhodes, I think that set him off. The next day in practice, Diggs catches a pass in between Harrison Smith, Andrew Sendejo. I think Diggs said something to them as he was heading back toward the line of scrimmage. They kind of got into it. Sendejo and Diggs did. Rhodes got all upset about that, too. Diggs ends up going across the field, having a talk with Mike Zimmer on the opposite sideline from where the defensive backs were. Then Zimmer and Diggs both walk over toward the defensive backs. It was almost like dad mode, grabbing his son and saying, you are going to apologize to this teacher, right? So after that, the next day they come out, Diggs and Rose